it is Erasmus calling in from Los Angeles, California. Erasmus, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's going on?
We were just talking, I think, this morning, were we not?
I'm not sure if we were, but we did speak in VC and the ACD. So I wanted, you did mention you wanted to speak on the Truth Wanted, so I decided to call in.
Yeah, well, thanks for calling. Thanks for, accepting my invite. I appreciate that.
Shout outs to the Atheist Community of Austin Discord. And shout outs to you for calling in. Erasmus, what do you want to talk to us about?
Well, I kind of wanted to continue the discussion with Kelly because I didn't really get to, talk about it in full. It was about the evil that Satan does, or the killing that Satan does, sort of through temptation.
Okay.
Yeah. As I recall, wasn't I claiming that there was nothing that Satan did in the Bible that was actually evil? Is that the same conversation?
Yeah, that was the same conversation. Yeah, That was more so it.
Okay. So Kelly's saying that Satan has never actually done anything evil, at least what's recorded in the Bible. And your position, Erasmus, is that Satan is a real thing and does do evil things. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll give my take real quick. It's kind of a complicated question because I think Christians have kind of developed the figure of Satan where Judaism doesn't have the same kind of idea about Satan. So they talk about the serpent in the Garden of Eden, and that's literally just the serpent. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the devil. That's a later interpretation, I believe, that's talked about in Revelation, if not one of the other New Testament Gospels. Not Gospels, sorry, one of the New Testament books that gives that interpretation. I think Paul talks about that actually, maybe. But also, as the Satan is a Jewish idea, a Jewish word that comes means like the accuser, right? And so this is most demonstrated the best in the book of Job. At the beginning of the book of Job, there's God literally have a conversation with the Satan, the accuser, and that's where kind of that comes from. And then later in the Gospels, you do see Jesus supposedly talking to the devil, and there's kind of this weird continuity in all this that again, different interpretations from different authors are going to give different ideas about what Satan is. So I don't even know, in short, if Satan is a coherent enough idea to be able to say, oh yeah, these are all necessarily talking about the same things. They're definitely talking about similar things. But in most instances, or at least a lot of instances, I don't think Satan is actively doing as much wrong as Christians claim. I don't know if he never does anything wrong. I think he's definitely killed people a few times, but definitely not as many times as God. I know that for a fact. So anyway, that's my take on the situation. Erasmus, I'll let you get your thoughts out there.
So in the case of Bible, it does speak about Satan, for instance, in I believe Ezekiel 28 as being in Eden, in the Garden of Eden, in Ezekiel 28. But one thing that Satan...
Okay, there you go. So I was wrong about that. So there is some Old Testament interpretations of that, if that's correct. I can't verify like live on the air. Maybe I should, but there you go. I know at some point in the Bible there is a later interpretation about the Garden of Eden, but I'd have to look into that. So anyway, thank you, Erasmus.
Go ahead. You go ahead and read it, Erasmus. I'm reading it myself right now, and I don't even see that this is about Satan. But go ahead. So
it states in Ezekiel. Oh no, I had it just now. Ezekiel, Jeremiah.
Well, okay. Is this 20? Super important to the overall point that you wanted to make? Like, is your overall point that Satan is a real thing and is harms people? Like, is that?
I don't see that here, but and actually, when God is making the word of the Lord comes down to me, and he's speaking to the Son of Man, and this is what the Sovereign Lord says: "You are the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect beauty. You are in in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorns you: carnelian, chrysolite, emerald, blah blah blah. Your settings and mountings were made of gold." And it keeps going through all this, but he's talking about the Son of Man, not Satan. I don't understand how this is relevant to the point.
When it states Son of Man, it's speaking to the Son of Man is speaking about Ezekiel. He's the Son of Man that's being spoken to, and he's being told to give a lament to the king of Tyre.
Tyre, and yeah.
However, what he's being told to speak about is Satan, because it states that they were in the lament being given is given to a person who is in Eden, in the garden of God, but also that they were an anointed cherub in the Garden of Eden, which would not make sense for an actual person, because no person is a cherub and no person is.
Okay, I'll give you that. But where in this passage does it say that Satan actually did evil? Because I'm not seeing that. I see that his heart became proud. He corrupted wisdom. But I don't see anything where he actually went and did anything actually evil. So
it looks like, and for context for everybody else, we're looking at Ezekiel chapter 28, verses, I think, 12 through 19. Gosh, I can't believe we're doing some Bible reading right now. But I mean, maybe we can get to the bottom of this.
It said he was filled with violence and he sinned, but sin isn't necessarily evil. It's just against the religion, right? It says, like if you go against the second commandment, say, that's not really evil in the eyes of everybody else in the world except for Christians. So I wouldn't call that evil.
This translation, Kelley, says, "You were blameless in your ways from the day that you were created until iniquity was found in you. In the abundance of your trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. So I cast you as a profane thing from the mountain of God. And the guardian cherub drove you out from among the stones of fire. Your heart was proud because of your beauty. You corrupted your wisdom for the sake of your splendor." And yeah, I mean, it's just accusing him of being having a heart full of violence, I guess. But accusations of a heart full of violence, as Kelley pointed out, is not the same thing as
the United States, as an example, the USA did a lot of violent things to end World War II, right? But that wasn't evil. That was like getting rid of an evil, right? But it was still violent actions on our part. So violence isn't necessarily evil.
Necessarily, yeah.
It does connect to. I would state it connects to the event in the Garden of Eden, because
Satan didn't do anything evil in the Garden of Eden, though, did he?
Yeah. What did Satan do that was evil?
He tempted man to sin, thus bringing death to humanity.
That's not evil. That to say that here, if you eat this fruit, you will gain knowledge that God doesn't want you to have, that's not evil. I would say that the act of keeping knowledge from people would be more evil myself, but that's my opinion. That's like, I mean, being able to censoring what people can and can't know is way more evil than having somebody say, "Hey, you shouldn't listen to that person who wants to censor you. You should go ahead and learn everything you want."
Well, part of the reason that, for instance, this is a worldly example, but part of the reason why sometimes some knowledge is hidden is so that it does not bring danger. For instance, we don't give out we give out library cards so that people can learn about astrology, science.
Yes, but
things.
However, but this isn't. We're not talking about doing the knowledge to do bad things. It was the knowledge of good and evil. That was what was given. I'll even give you the exact verses here.
I can go to Genesis. I'm aware of Genesis. I'm simply saying that in the case of some knowledge is hidden because we do not want it to be used for evil, such as making a nuclear bomb. We don't want people to know that.
Yeah, but how can we know what we're doing is evil if we don't even have knowledge of good and evil?
Well, we have a statement which is don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, how do I know that's bad? How do I know that's bad? If I'm Adam and I'm in the garden and you're telling me don't eat from the tree, okay, I don't know good from evil. How do I know that's good or bad?
Because you're told that you will die when you...
No, I don't know what good and evil is. I literally don't know. Literally the fruit gave them the knowledge of good. It's like talking to your cat. It's like telling your cat, don't do this thing. Why does the cat care? You know, cat doesn't know good and evil. That's a human concept, right? That's an understanding that a cat just doesn't have. So why would I know that I should listen to God? Or why would I even know that not listening to God is a bad thing? How?
Well, because in the case of God, he put Adam and Eve in a place of pure perfection where there was no sickness, death, etc.
Okay, so
how do you know what perfection is without that knowledge?
Yeah, how do they know that it's good? They don't know what good things are either, right?
Yeah, they don't know they don't know that perfection is a good thing.
They would be experiencing good because they would be experiencing good. They would have
they would be experiencing.
They wouldn't know that it was good. The story is they don't have knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah, they would just be experiencing, period.
Yeah.
Does someone have to do something evil to know what evil is?
No, but you still can know what good and evil is, even if it's not demonstrated. You can be taught to you without being demonstrated. So, and they weren't taught that. So they didn't know that they were living in a good environment. They didn't know that eating of the apple was evil, which I would argue wasn't evil. So you're saying that they already experienced these things and knew what they were before they were able to experience and know what they were.
Yeah.
Kelley, do you think that you say that Adam and Eve didn't do anything bad by eating the apple. Do you think there was rape in the Garden of Eden?
What does that have anything to do with anything?
First off, there were no other people in the Garden of Eden, right?
Allegedly.
So allegedly, yes.
But to be clear, too, Erasmus, neither Kelley or I actually believe any of these events actually happened in reality. So we're just talking about a fictional story. So anyway, I'm interrupting. Go ahead, Kelley.
I don't believe the Garden of Eden actually existed, right? But if it did, I don't believe, if the whole story is true, then no, I don't believe rape existed before the apple was eaten. Or if it did exist in the Garden of Eden, then nobody would understand that act was an evil act because they didn't have the knowledge of good and evil. So even if it did occur, it could not be considered an evil act because people didn't know what evil was.
Yeah.
If I might ask, Kelley, if I commit a crime without knowing the law, does that mean I haven't broken the law?
Law is different from what's good and evil, according to God. Doesn't matter. There's all kinds of shitty laws out there. And there's been shitty laws all over the place. The law does not equal morality.
The Garden of Eden isn't a courtroom.
Yeah, and sorry, Kelley, I'm interrupting you because
no, please, Dan, you're fine.
Erasmus, let me ask you this, okay? Do you have any kids? Do you mind me asking that? Do you have any kids?
I don't have any kids, but let's say for the sake of argument, I have a kid.
Okay, let's say you have a kid. Let's say you don't teach them good and evil. Let's say you don't teach them right and wrong. Like you don't introduce that concept to them. Would you say that's a good thing or a bad thing if you withheld, telling them what's right and what's wrong?
If I withheld tell them what's right and what's wrong, depends on what age they are. I mean, if they're babies.
No, never. You never tell them your entire life. You never plan on telling them. You don't raise them with any sense of good or bad, right?
Okay. All right. I'd say that would be bad.
Yes. And that's why we think that this is bad, because God doesn't do that. God has no intention in the book, at least he doesn't explain it, that he's going to teach his creation right and wrong. And that's why we think that this is bad, right?
Why do you think that God created the tree in the first place? It is possible.
I have no idea.
You know what? Actually, now that you brought that up, that's an interesting thought. God, who supposedly knows past, present, and future, put the tree there knowing that if he put it there, Adam and Eve would eat off of it, and therefore he would punish them. So that kind of tells me that God might be a little bit of a sadist.
Yeah, it's true.
God, it is possible that he desired that they not eat of the tree until they would be ready for such a thing.
Well, how do we know that the serpent wasn't the bearer of God's message to go ahead and eat that tree? Eat off of that tree.
Much like Satan was in the garden as I put.
No, the serpent was in the garden, not Satan. Yeah. Let's get that straight. The serpent was. Never once does the Bible equate the serpent with Satan. Never once.
It does. The book of Revelations.
Yeah, Revelation.
I was right.
Revelations
is conjecture about the future. The book of Revelations doesn't count.
Well, Revelation is one Christian text retroactively interpreting Jewish, stories, Judaism, tales about Judaism into a Christian narrative, much as like the Book of Mormon does with the books of Christianity and Judaism and, Islam does, etc. But we're getting off track here, Erasmus. Here's the point, right? You have said in your own words, and I think, and I feel the exact same way, by the way, which is that if you don't teach your children right from wrong, that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a good thing. I think you should teach people right from wrong, or at least give your understanding of right and wrong, because we may not always be right about everything. But the point is, withholding that is wrong. And Satan is giving people that knowledge. His goal is to say, look, you can have good and evil, or have an understanding of good and evil. And that's why I don't think that's a bad thing. There's nothing in there that screams to me this is an evil act, other than it's not what God wants. That's it.
I'd like to make an example out of this. Going back to your example about that act that would be evil in the Garden of Eden. Let's say Adam didn't know the difference between good and evil, and he left the Garden of Eden, and he came upon a woman and forced himself upon that woman. He wouldn't know that what he was doing was an evil act. He wouldn't even know that thing was an evil act.
Why would he do that
because he didn't know it was evil, because he just wanted to do it and he didn't know it was evil. He sees the animals do it. Why can't he do it?
No. Why would he do something evil if his environment?
He doesn't know that it's evil, Erasmus.
Why did Adam eat the fruit?
Evil.
If he lived in a perfect environment, why did Adam eat the fruit in the first place then? Right? Like, people just do things. I don't know.
Because in the Bible it states that Adam and Eve were beguiled by the serpent, that is Satan.
Yeah, did what I just say just go right over your head, Erasmus? Because it seems like it did. It seems like without the knowledge of good and evil, Adam could have gone around forcing himself on women, killing men, robbing people, and he never would have known that was evil, because he never learned what evil was. To him, that would just be a thing.
Yeah.
Kelley, the problem with that is that death entered through Adam, so there wouldn't be.
And death has nothing to do with your actions while you're alive, Erasmus. It has nothing to do with it. It has nothing to do with the idea of what is good and what is evil. Death is something that comes at the end of life when you don't care about good and evil anymore because you're dead.
Yeah.
Kelley, Adam was also in an environment in which he wasn't doing any evil acts, but actually was doing
I didn't say that he was, Erasmus. You're not. Like I said, this seems to be going right over your head when the point I'm trying to make.
Clearly, Adam, if eating the fruit was an evil act, Erasmus, then clearly Adam is capable of doing evil in a perfect environment. So it's a moot point.
Only because he was beguiled to do evil by the serpent, by Satan.
Okay.
So then it wasn't perfect because beguiling could be done there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Then it's not a perfect environment anyway. If you can be...
It was a perfect environment in the sense that there was...
It clearly wasn't because they got kicked out, okay?
because they were able to do something that they weren't supposed to do.
They kind of messed it up, so I don't know if it was that perfect. You know,
if it was perfect, they wouldn't have ever been able to eat off the tree. The tree wouldn't have been there. The tree wouldn't have been there until God was ready for them to eat off of it, and then He could have put the tree there. He didn't have to have the temptation of the tree there at all.
Yeah,
which goes back to my original point.
Imagine this. What if we put Erasmus a flamethrower in the Garden of Eden? God just put that there. And then the serpent tempts Adam to use that flamethrower to kill somebody, right? You got to wonder, why was the flamethrower there in the first place, right? Like, if that was going to be an option, it's ridiculous. You know, it shouldn't have happened, but like, it could have been prevented if there were no flamethrowers. So why the hell was there a tree there that could have, you know, had the rules broken in that way? It just doesn't make any sense. Here's why I think this. Why, Erasmus? Why? Tell me.
Part of the reason is because it was for Adam and Eve at a later time.
You don't know that.
Very much.
You're literally making that up.
Yeah, even if it was for a later,
just inventing things.
Even if it was for a later time, He could have created the tree at that later time and not had the temptation there. You're not listening to me. I just told you that, Erasmus.
Yeah.
He didn't have to put the tree there before he needed it. He could have just kept it in the closet until he needed it.
Yep.
Part of the problem with that is that when he, I'm here. Part of the problem with that is that when he created all the trees and vegetation, he kind of put that in the whole Garden of Eden.
He did, and he didn't have to. That's our point.
Yeah.
He didn't have to put it there, Erasmus. He did, but he didn't have to. He could have waited. He could have waited until Adam and Eve were ready for that knowledge and then put it there. Or else he could have even just came down and touched each one of them on the forehead and give them that knowledge at that point. He didn't have to have a tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah,
it didn't need to be there.
This is just ad hoc because it's like we're already creating full-fledged people out of the ground. What are we waiting on? What do you mean we have to wait? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Because while physically they were, you know, adults, spiritually they were very much babies.
Okay, you are Erasmus. You're making this up. Do you know this? Do you know that you're just making things up?
I would say no. In many
parts of the Bible, let me tell you, you're making things up. You are telling a story about a story. None of what you're saying is in the text. This is a fan fiction that you're writing to me right now.
No. In the New Testament, it speaks about how...
Yeah, the New Testament, guess what, man? They were making up shit too. Do you think they had better access to the Garden of Eden than we do today? No, they just heard other stories. It's just stories, man. None of this is real. There is no reason to make sense of any of this. We don't have to go on back and forth about why God did this or why Adam did that, because none of it actually happened, right? There's no reason for us to believe that any of this is real.
I suppose that's what you believe. But because I am a theist, I do believe that ultimately those who wrote the New Testament were inspired by the Holy Spirit, and God revealed to them what He revealed to Moses, who wrote Genesis.
You know what? Last night I got revealed that all of it was bullshit.
Yeah. Erasmus, why, if
it was just
Joseph,
a voice. It was just a voice in my head told me that. Sorry,
I'm assuming,
Dan.
Erasmus, you don't believe Joseph Smith has been revealed to, right? I'm assuming you don't think the Holy Spirit has revealed anything, or to the Prophet Muhammad, right?
Or the Sun Myung Moon.
No,
I
don't think you have.
Ask Kelly. You said
no. I'm asking you this, Erasmus. You don't believe Joseph Smith has anything of value to add to your life. You don't think the Prophet Muhammad is something you should be taking seriously. Why should I take Paul seriously? Why does the Apostle Paul matter at all?
The Apostle Paul was inspired by the Holy Spirit of God. But
why? Why do you think that's true?
So was Muhammad, and so was Joseph Smith.
Yeah. Why is the Apostle Paul special?
In the case of Joseph Smith and Muhammad, and to an extension yourself, Kelly, because you did say you heard a voice, those individuals were hearing a voice, but it wasn't coming from God, because God...
How do you know? How do you know? Were you there when I heard my voice last night? How do you know I did not hear the voice of God last night? Can you tell me exactly how you knew that I wasn't listening to God last night?
Because the Holy Spirit of God testifies about Jesus Christ. And
that's what he was telling me. He was telling me that, Jesus came down, I sent him down there, but all that stuff that's in the Old Testament, that's all bullshit. None of that stuff ever happened. That's exactly what he told me.
And Kelly,
he told me Jesus was his son.
Kelly's being obviously sarcastic, but to counter this, Erasmus, Joseph Smith talked a lot about Jesus as well. Like, he definitely attested to Jesus. So I don't know why Paul attesting to Jesus makes his claims any more valid than anybody else in history.
Well, part of the reason Paul is accepted is not only is he making a testimony of himself, but Peter, one of the apostles that actually met Jesus, writes in his epistles to the churches that Paul is reliable. Paul was a part of the early church. Muhammad never met Jesus and contradicts Jesus's divinity. Joseph Smith also does as well. There are countless points that contradict the old.
I just want you to be clear. I'm going to make an analogy here. David Koresh claimed he was the Son of God. He did. He claimed he was the Messiah. And we have a direct follower of David Koresh saying, hey, I like this other guy who never met David Koresh, but I think his conversion is legit, and I think we should listen to him. Does that make any of this more valid, or something worth considering?
In the case of Koresh, no, because Jesus Christ has stated he's going to return in the clouds with great power and great glory. And
David Koresh said he was going to come back too. And I haven't seen Jesus come back yet. I certainly haven't seen David Koresh come back yet. Why does Jesus get a pass here?
Because unlike David Koresh, there's attestations of visions of Jesus Christ from the time of the apostles, even to now.
I think you maybe need to be more familiar with David Koresh, because there's a lot of people who attest to him being the Son of God.
Yeah, and there was a lot of people that saw Elvis after he died too. So,
but they don't have visions of David Koresh, nor has David Koresh resurrected.
That's why I brought up the Elvis sightings.
You're wrong. There are followers to this day of David Koresh that live at the compound and still talk about being in communion with him. That is absolutely still a case. But again, we don't take that seriously because we don't think David Koresh was the real deal. I don't think Jesus was the real deal either. I don't think that there's any reason why we should believe that we should be taking any of these people seriously just because some people say that they have visions sometimes, right? Like, we have to figure this out, Erasmus, because there's a million people in history that have said they know the Son of God, or have been around somebody that said they're the Son of God, whatever, right? Jesus is one of those people. Why are we taking this into account, or more seriously, more than anybody else in history?
there's also the fact that many other different religions do state that Jesus was a God or was a way, but Jesus Christ himself states that he is.
You're just.
I'm not speaking about the Abrahamic religions.
Does that inform your belief, Erasmus? Do you think that Jesus is a God because other religions say that he is?
Stating that they have a part of the.
That's fine. That's other people. I'm talking about you, Erasmus. Why do you believe that Jesus is the Son of God?
Jesus is the Son of God because he died, was buried, and resurrected on the third day.
Well, how does that make him the Son of God, though?
Or really, like, why should you believe anything about Jesus being divine in any way, or that any of these stories have anything to do with reality?
Because of personal experience. That's one reason.
Okay.
The scriptures are another reason.
Okay. I think we've been going through this conversation for a while, so maybe we can try to put a tail end to this. But I think I appreciate you calling in and talking to us about this. But when it comes to personal experience, there's a lot of people that have personal experiences with stuff, man. That it just doesn't tell anything to the truth. What I want to import to you is we are talking about other claims from other people because we truly think that Jesus is just like all these other guys. If you really want to convince us, or, about debates about theology, about Satan's doing whatever, like all that stuff is ancillary, right? We need to figure out the baseline stuff, whether Jesus is the real deal or not, and then we can talk about whatever his followers have to say about this and that in the Old Testament and other stuff, right? If you want to have a dialogue with atheists, you really have to come to terms with this idea. Why should I care about what Jesus has to say, or what other people have said about Jesus more accurately, right? But anyway, I got to cut you off there, Erasmus, because we've been on this for too long, and we got to get to some other callers. But I do appreciate you talking to us on this subject.